Hey everybody, welcome back to Ready Steady Play, where we are going to give our final thoughts on Gotham City Chronicles.
Gotham.
So if you guys don't know, this is a miniatures skirmish game, a Batman miniatures skirmish game from Monolith. It's a spiritual successor to Conan. It uses much of the same mechanics, and both of them are kind of loosely based off of claustrophobia, but with different...
Are they?
Slightly, yeah.
I never knew that about Conan. Wow. I mean, this is like super spiritual success to Conan. I mean, it's like very, very similar.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is...
It's the same system. The only
this
things
is
that
like a
successor
successor.
are to make it more thematically appropriate, both to the time period and to the general theme. Like, apart from that, it's the same game, isn't it? It's essentially would it be rude to call it a reskin?
No, I don't think so. I think it's similar enough to basically... I mean, it's obviously a reskin with also some tidying up, some cleaning up, some smoothing of the rough edges.
I mean, do you know when you look on BGG and sometimes a game says re-implements?
Yeah, I'm sure this would say re-implements.
I think so. I really think so.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you do not need to own both of these unless you're very much a fan of both IPs.
Yeah,
I would say.
And you want both games for that.
Yeah, which is fine. If you like both themes enough, then 100%. But if you just like the system, I don't understand. Well, I suppose if you love the system, you might want to have all the content for the system as well.
But there's both such massive games as well.
Yeah.
If you like the systems well enough, you would have the entire Kickstarter. But this is just the core set. So yes. Chris and I have just finished playing through this scenario from the core set, which it is, of course, a miniature skirmish game. It's for 2 to 4 players, with one player taking on the role of the villains always, and the other number of players taking on a number of heroes.
Yeah.
And different scenarios have different player counts as well. And, in the core set, you've got a ton of Batman goodies and a ton of Batman villains. I've only got the core sets, which was a review copy that Monolith were kind enough to give us, and I don't feel the need for anything else.
There's so much stuff.
There's so much stuff just in those 2 boxes.
You've got stuff that you feel... I mean, there isn't a retail version, though, right? So
at the moment, the game is unavailable at retail, yeah.
So everything's kind of very deluxe-y, so to speak. So you've got the wad of character cards like that thick. You know, you've got Red Hood, you've got the Green Arrow. You know, if you got Commissioner Gordon, you got Katana was in there. Who else was in there?
Heroes wise, well, there's like 3 Robins, and Robin. There's Red Hood.
Presumably, you had Nightwing as well. Nightwing there somewhere?
Yeah, Nightwing's in there. Yeah, I think
there was Batwoman as well as Batgirl.
Yes.
Like you've got
and Huntress. I don't know who that is, but she's in there.
I know her from I don't know who she is but she was in the Arrow TV show.
And spoilers in there. Don't know who that is.
But she appears in the Arrow TV show. It's not that much of a spoiler, is it?
No, spoilers in there as a character.
Oh, spoiler the character. Sorry. Yeah, I have no idea who that is. I don't know who that is.
Chris is a fan of some of the DC TV shows. I know some Batman stuff, mostly from the movies. Yeah. And what I've gleaned off my brother, who knows a lot about the comics, but unfortunately couldn't be here to play with us tonight. So we've played 2 games of this now, this scenario twice.
Yeah.
But, so if you are not familiar with this system at all, the heroes have action cubes that go through a sort of exhausted phase and they refresh, and then the heroes can sort of rest, which is sort of a miss-a-turn mechanic to refresh more. The villain has...
Miss-a-turn mechanic, that's a word that should never be said.
Yeah. Obviously, less of an issue when one player controls all 3 heroes, but slightly more of an issue when multiple players are present because they might wind up missing a turn, which can be a bit of downer. But, they will still have the decisions to whether or not to spend those cubes on defense when they're attacked. So there is still some scope to make a choice. The villain player controls these heroes through action cubes as well. Sorry, heroes? They're mobs, they're henchmen, and they're elites, and they're villains like the Joker, etc. through these river tiles here, and whenever they activate something, it moves to the back of the river and becomes more expensive. So you can activate sort of certain mobs twice in a row for a very high cost, or you can try to be more economic with your action cubes, which are also used for extra movement and defense and rerolls of dice, because it is a very dice-heavy game.
Super dice-heavy.
Whenever you're doing an attack, you'll create pools of dice and throw them, and then your opponent will create a defensive pool and throw that. Or if it's me, I'll get like a die.
And you'll roll a blank.
And I'll roll a blank.
Yeah. True.
So this was quite an objective-based scenario, but there are scenarios in the game that are also just pure combat.
Yeah, I think it was probably good that it was objective-based. But I mean, the only downside being that we never actually had... I didn't attack Harley Quinn or the Joker once. You attacked me with both of them, so we got to see him in action.
In the first game we played, there was a bit more violence going on towards the villains than in the second game.
Yeah, I shot Harley Quinn at one point. I wounded Harley Quinn once, and I insta-gibbed the Joker with a super OP attack. I just got an incredibly good dice roll with like 3 red dice and an orange die.
Batman just knocked him out. Well,
you just murderized him. It was fun. But yeah.
What we didn't get to see was a henchman running through this space and melting from acid exposure. Yeah, that happened in the first game.
That did. And Batman ran through it twice and just got away with it both times.
Outrageous.
Yeah, so I mean the most obvious thing is to compare it to Conan, right?
Well,
because we said it's a reimplementation of it. It's
yeah. So we have played and reviewed Conan on the channel previously.
I wasn't too enamored with it.
Oh yeah, I don't think any of us were particularly enamored with Conan. What we were particularly damning about was its scenario design and monster design. We had some complaints about the mechanisms that control the heroes and the villains as well, but we also had some nice things to say about that, whereas we didn't really have anything nice to say about the scenario design or the monster design.
The board information.
And the board information, yeah.
So, I'm trying to think what the best place to start is.
With this?
Yeah, well, one improvement this has made.
Mm-hmm.
We played the same scenario now twice. And in Conan we played the same scenario twice as well, actually, as it turned out. And I played an additional scenario at a later time. So in Conan, the first scenario we did was massively, in my opinion, and I believe in yours too, was massively seemed to favour the villain. It seemed to be far too easy for the villain. The other scenario I played was far too easy for the heroes. This one we played twice, and both times I won on the 7th turn.
Yep. So this was fairly close both times.
Yeah. So that obviously now we're going on one scenario, but it seems to have given me the impression they've tightened up that balance a bit more.
Yeah, it seemed a lot. There was more dramatic elements. You know, there was in the game we played that we've aired on the channel. You can see that there are moments where it comes very close to victory and loss for both of us. You know, and it could have turned on a dime on a number of occasions, which is really what you want.
You were one failed die roll away from losing on turn 3 or 4, I think it was.
Yeah, that couldn't have been closer. And you know, after that, I actually, when I didn't lose there, it was almost exhausting. I was like,
but that's one massive improvement I think they made. Another improvement that they tried to make, I think failed at, but at least they tried. Was the board information about what's elevated, what can see what. So they've done this alphabetized system. I mean, but they've been utterly inconsistent about how they've implemented it.
I really like the alphabetized system, and I don't understand why they haven't put it on literally everything.
Exactly. Why have they made it so?
Why are there spaces? Why does this space have 2 dubs?
Yeah, exactly.
That makes no sense.
Now, having said that, I still don't think it's a very good. It's a particular. I guess what else could they do? But it's still not very. It's not very quick to see. You have to many times through the game we were like, so can that one see that one? Move the guy. Oh yeah, does that have a B on it?
To be fair, it's a massive improvement upon Conan.
I wouldn't say it's a massive improvement. It's an improvement.
Yeah, the Conan board was devastatingly bad. This is much better. And I actually find...
it's easier to say... I agree, it's easier to tell what's up and what's down.
But I do think it's much easier to tell where the elevation is. The board is a lot lighter. The art's a lot clearer to make out.
Yeah,
the walls are much more apparent.
The 3D imaging of it is better. The doorways are easier, because these were... There were issues in Conan where there was a gap here of like one plank or something missing, for example. But it was hard to tell it was a door even. Yeah, okay, I've probably been a bit mean. It is significantly better, but I don't think it's good. Still don't think it's good enough. Their insistence on this top-down view, and then trying to implement levels on a very fundamental, on an important basis. For example, Bullock in that last turn should have had an extra yellow die every time. It's such an easy thing to forget, because to glance at it, it's not obvious that it's elevated. I mean, I know.
Yeah, they could have had a little symbol in the dot that was just like a a little symbol in the middle of it here that had like one dot for
3,
one,
level 1, or 0, 1, 2,
just 0, 1, and 2, or ground 1, whatever. So
if you're going to make levels such an important part of the gameplay mechanics, why...
We forgot elevation basically every time.
Yeah, and
and there's a lot of little bits to remember, so every little shorthand they can do is enormously helpful. Yeah. The proximity of this circle is the elevation. Because if you look, all of the ground ones are these dashed circles. And then that's second ringed. Level is all ringed. Oh,
yeah, check
and
it
then
out.
that's...
They have done it.
And so that's actually... You can see that this is higher than that because this circle's wider.
That's higher than that?
Yeah, apparently.
The circle's not wider, is it?
Yeah, that circle's bigger than that one.
That's ridiculous. I still don't think it's good enough. It should be graphically obvious.
Yeah. But I think this is supposed to be the highest point, and then these are down lower, that's lower still, and I think there's 4 levels of elevation.
But you can jump from here to here and here, so...
Yeah, but these are on an equal level, because that ring is the same as this ring, so this walkway is actually higher than this walkway. So actually, when they were shooting across here, there should have been an elevation bonus too. But...
That's silly.
Yeah, This is a
perfect example of how ridiculous their visual information is.
Yeah, but now that I've got it, I think I understand it.
You wouldn't remember every time. You wouldn't. Because we thought we understood it last time. We didn't implement the bits of it we understood.
Well, we didn't even notice it. But to be fair, there's an enormous amount to take in here in this game.
Yeah, so when we continue along that information idea, all the play special abilities, which
the skills can be its own topic. Are we done talking about the map?
The only thing of note I think of the map is the fact that its visual information is better than Conan, but still poor. It looks fine.
I think it's okay. I don't think it's quite as bad as... Now that I've noticed this business about this, I actually quite like that. And I think that now that I understand that,
I still think it's immediately obvious, though.
Yeah, it's not as... It would have been much simpler with an icon. It would have been much simpler with an icon.
And why didn't they use the alphabetized system throughout?
Yes, I agree with that completely.
And why are there 2 of these, as you said?
Yeah, I think that must be a misprint. Because this is 1 space, and every other space has 1 dot. It's 1 space in the map on the back, so
that's very odd.
I think it must be.
Even that, actually, the fact. Look, just defending my criticism here for a minute. The fact that this page exists means they admit that this is not massively clear.
Yeah, I agree, and you can see here the 4 levels of elevation. So
but the fact that this exists means they themselves don't think this is particularly clear. And then this is in the room. You have to refer to this in the room. Why? Name another game where the information that the board where the board needs an explanation in the rulebook for its information.
I'm sure there are lots, but I can't think of any.
But you know what I mean?
Right? None that are this pulpy. You know, it's usually a much more complex kind of war game type deal. And yeah, the thing is, what's more egregious really to me, because I actually think, now that I've sort of parsed this elevation and line of sight thing, I think it's actually okay. But yeah, it could have been clearer. What I think is not really okay is these jump factors here are just not represented.
It's not on the board at all.
Yeah, and if you were to put it on the board, it would be too messy. But without it, you just have to internalize this. Why this isn't maybe a little like dashboard on the side with this printed on it? That would be much more helpful. You know.
Yeah. And they're Monolith. They're really, really terrible in this series of games at just giving us the information we need and making it easily accessible.
Yeah, well, that's sort of... Because that would be sort of like a little aid or a little player aid if there's just a little extra bit on the side that sort of referenced...
Yeah. Or even just a small card that could have lived here.
Well, and speaking of which, that is a fair criticism of the game, which is a complete absence of player aids. There are none. There are no map info, there's no skills info, there's no player aids whatsoever. Not even a sort of a turn player aid, and I think that's really bad.
And that's why we printed our own, because during our practice game we spent, I'd say, as much time as much time looking at the rulebook as we playing, because there are about 50 skills.
Well, and that leads us into the skill talk, which is that all of these people have skills, and all of those guys have skills, and the heroes especially have a lot, and the iconography is unhelpful, and they're all collected in a compendium at the back of the rulebook, which is organized alphabetically, but none of the skill names are referenced on this card. So you're basically going through these things that are organized in a way that's...
The names are utterly irrelevant. The names don't matter at all.
Yep. And
Batman has 10 symbols.
Batman has 10 symbols.
Counted.
And, it's not even... And I don't know, maybe it makes more sense in French, right?
He has 8.
But... There is, for example, there are 2 skills that reduce damage from incoming attacks, right?
Jeez.
One for melee and one for range.
Yeah.
And they're called in English, the ranged one is called untouchable.
Yeah.
And the melee one is called...
Grab it.
Well,
you can spend the next 10 minutes looking for it.
Yeah, right. Fortunately, I've largely internalized this because I've had to go through it so much. Impenetrable defense.
Yeah.
So the names are not even close. So the skills are basically the exact same, but they're not even close together. And
something else that made it even harder to find them is the inverting of colors.
Right. Yes. On the if you look on the hero tiles, if you look here on the villain tiles, here you can see both of these characters have mobility and whatever that's called.
That's different.
Oh, that's different. But you can see here on the mobility ones. Is that even mobility? But
that's
the colors are
parkour.
inverted.
That's parkour.
Yeah, that's called parkour.
But actually, even the fact that these are similar enough that you just confuse them because they're small and they look. But there's 3 different feet ones.
Yeah.
But yeah. So and then I think is there even a third version of the color for the actual rulebook then?
No, the rulebook matches the hero color, not the villain tile colors. Yeah.
Try to find parkour now.
Good luck. So, this is what, if you don't print off online aids because they weren't provided, then you will have this problem, and people will want to be checking these all the time. And the fact that there isn't a quick and easy reference to them is really just kind of a massive oversight.
Even the fact that it always references allows the possessor to trigger level X, and level X refers to the number in the box, right? And then in the image, it does have that box, but it's blank. Why isn't there an X there?
Mm-hmm.
Just because it's referencing X, so put the X there. Because it's obvious. It's relatively obvious, but it's just such a. It just demonstrates the lack of thought that Monolith have put into this.
Yeah, and it's there is. I mean, and in sort of, in a very sort of trivial defense, we played once. It was so much overhead and it was a real chore. We played it a second time and we'd already internalized quite a lot of it.
True, but I genuinely got...
But the thing is,
very, very...
It doesn't take a lot of effort to make these tiny quality of life improvements that will make such a big difference to people's ease of learning.
And this is their second Kickstarter, right? Sure.
I think this is probably the first print.
Okay, so that's third attempt at this system, having done 2 prints of Conan.
Yeah, they did. Well, they did 2 prints of Conan and they did this print of Batman.
The overhead the first time playing was genuinely upsetting me.
Yeah.
Like, it was, upsetting is the only word I can think of. I wouldn't even call it stress. I wouldn't even call it anger. It was upsetting me.
But this is what's funny. Ridiculous. Someone on Board Game Geek made these, and we just went away and we printed them off because we'd had enough, and they made a huge difference. Yeah, they really did. Like, we actually had fun playing it on the channel, and that's thanks to this board game person. Oh, I should find out who posted these. I'll put their name in the description. Credit, I'll put a link in their name in the description below. Because these changed what was miserable into something that was actually fun.
Yeah. I mean, as harsh as I've been in this game, I actually wouldn't call the first playthrough miserable. Even though I was feeling upset and depressed by the overhead. I could already see the fun elements that existed.
Yeah.
But... Yeah, but
it was just getting to them.
It actually genuinely got to me. I like I said, I honestly was questioning my life choices. I was thinking, why am I fucking here? I'm playing this piece of shit. I'm sorry. No, because not because the game is so bad, but because Monolith have done such an unprecedentedly terrible job of making the game accessible.
Yes.
That's the problem.
Yeah,
it seems to be a constant fucking problem with them. And I'm kind of fucking sick of it. They're awful at it.
Yeah, because it's... Well, what do we... So, they obviously, in between these 2 games, they did Claustrophobia 1643. So
I've played that once.
We've played it a few times on the channel. I've played it a few times as well in person. I think it's much, much better, but it's also...
definitely better. But
it's much simpler. There's significantly less overhead, and what overhead there is seems simpler and more easy to parse. And I'm not really sure what they did differently. But yeah, I mean, he published it first with I think Asmodee.
Right, so Asmodee had put that work in to make it, let's assume it was them. They put the work in to make it a functioning system to begin with, and they Monolith just picked it up and pre-printed it, essentially. I know they changed it and they made it really beautiful. And this game's really beautiful too. Aesthetically, Monolith are great. It's the accessibility issues.
And to be fair, what were we complaining about the other day? It was Edge of Darkness. We were complaining about the dice and the cubes on the trays being like, why is this not 2 pools, right?
Oh, yeah.
And these boards are great.
These boards are... Well, I remember when you first opened this, the first thing I said was, oh, wow, these are great.
Yeah, and functionally, awesome. they were really good. This is really good.
Yeah, I don't like... They've done the same thing, though, with the claustrophobia I really didn't like. The plain white.
Oh, yeah.
Really sterile and nasty and cheap, and I don't like it.
Yeah, I called these clinical.
Clinical, yeah.
But, they're very functional. I actually don't mind it.
You also don't mind it in claustrophobia. It's obviously just something that I've seen people comment on the claustrophobia ones. It's not just me.
I think it's definitely it's definitely divisive. For me, it doesn't really. It's not offensive, but I don't love it because there's not really anything here to love. It's clear, and I appreciate that. Yeah,
well, I mean, I think the symbols are actually too small.
Fair enough.
Because the a lot of them look similar. There's 3 boot symbols, as we said. You mix 2 of them up, looking right at them.
Oh yeah, well that's that's on the abilities. This guy obviously has this ability, which is super clear and obvious to parse. Or understand. So
yeah, the one that you couldn't find for ages because you thought it was a guy with his fists up, but it's actually a guy choke holding someone, sleeper holding.
Yeah, this is actually the blue guy sleeper holding the orange guy whose arms up, which is impossible to tell with this inverted color scheme. Yeah, but on the hero boards, it would be a lot more easy to see.
So I would like to briefly be complimentary. But unfortunately, even my compliments kind of have a big but. So I enjoyed a lot of the kind of the swingy dramatic, oh my god, I need to get a double, oh I got a double, yeah. All that kind of stuff. But I can get that from any dice chucking game.
Yeah.
So it's like, for a massive, super expensive, horribly inaccessible game, I can get the same joy I'd get from...
It's very expensive. Past the Pigs. No, you can't get that joy from Past the Pigs.
Hey, Double E and Jowler, you can.
My mom's obsessed with Past the
Pigs. My mom's obsessed with Past the Pigs. Point is, you can get it from any dice checking game, including Claustrophobia, which is a much better game than this.
Yeah, but I think that is there more to it?
To what? To this? No, I don't think so. There's a little bit of cube management, right? But actually, the problem with the cube management system is I really don't like the whole skipping a turn. Yeah. Now imagine playing this as a 3-player game. Imagine if your only guy was Bullock. He was after the. I mean, he wasn't actually that bad. To be honest, he did some good stuff. Mm-hmm. But he's significantly weaker than the rest of them. Yeah. And his drones were cool. Once they were gone.
I think if I would not put someone who is playing Bullock solo with the drones, but to be honest, just give them Huntress or one of the other ones. I mean, you only took Bullock because
I like Bullock.
You like Bullock, yeah. But if that was your solo character, I don't think you'd take him, right?
Yeah, maybe not. But he's an option, so you have to. I don't like the fact that you have to do nothing to get. 6, or actually 6 for Batman, 5 for these two. I think probably 5 for most of them. Because I don't think 5 doesn't seem like enough to be giving your turn up for. I think I'd rather. I think you get 5 all the time anyway. I think I'd rather you just always got 3 or something. Maybe always got 3 and resting wasn't a thing. I'm sure. Look, I'm not a game designer. I'm sure it was better. I'm sure there's a reason that this is the way it's done. I'm just saying that, flippantly, I'm just saying I'd prefer just to get...
Or maybe, when you rested, you could still do some, basic moves or something.
Yeah, even still get your move and...
Yeah, your free moves or something.
Maybe your maximums are reduced to 1 or something. I don't know. I just don't... I really don't like the fact
No, I completely agree. I completely agree with you.
And if you get the turn, you've got everything back, that would be ridiculous, I understand, but why they wouldn't do that. But at least then you'd feel, okay, if I'm giving 1 turn, but I'm getting super energized, and the next turn is going to be awesome. Yeah. It feels like you're giving up a lot for not that much. And it's not fun to not have a turn.
It's not fun to... Oh, well, ultimately, it's not fun to not have a turn. And I agree with you. It should not be entirely sort of sit out the round. I guess the only thing is if the rounds are relatively quick, which, they are. They are. But, even so.
But this whole resource management, I mean, yes, there's a bit more to it than dice chucking, but not a lot. It's just a little bit of cube management, just pretty basic, pretty light.
Bit of light resource management. Well, at least it's... I mean, there's a bit more to it, I think, with the river and choosing to activate things and choosing when to dredge the river and take the tiles out.
I don't remember dredging being a thing in Conan, but apart from that...
I think it was.
Oh, maybe it was. But even if that isn't new, apart from that, anyway, I can't think of it. That seems to be identical to Conan. And it was a good system. I actually remember when I first saw Conan, before we even played it, seeing this system of the whole actions and exhausted and damaged and the river, and thinking they look really cool. I really liked those on paper. And when we came to it, I was like, I still thought they were decent, but for some reason, I cannot justify why this is. The core mechanics of this system, which on paper I think sound awesome, just have never hit home for me the way I thought they would. I just didn't find it as fun as I thought it would, or as innovative, you know?
Yeah. Well, this game was interesting because the game we just played on the channel, because there were moments where you were stopping to think, and sort of make strategic considerations.
That's a good point that I have to take on the chin when I was saying that there weren't that many interesting decisions to make.
And I think, I think you did well with that. I don't know if maybe I should have been more thoughtful about what I was doing, because I lost, and also I felt like I was maybe not being as thoughtful as I could have been. But
you lost right at the 11th hour, though.
Yeah, but I wonder if I could have done more.
I think your idea of mobbing the computer was spot on.
Yeah,
I didn't think it was a particularly fun defense system, but it was your best one.
But it also didn't really work.
It didn't, which I was very surprised by. When you did that, I thought I was absolutely screwed.
But actually, Batgirl came in there and basically cleared it, and then I kind of mobbed it again, and then Batman came in and basically cleared it, and also him with a gun.
He took away their shields, yeah.
Yeah, so it's sort of...
You took away your defense die, and then Batman was able to clear you out.
So I don't know if maybe I should have been a bit more thoughtful about a better way, because really...
Well, I think what you should have done was attack, just full-on attack Batman. Because the only way I could win was if Batman had a decent pool of actions.
Yeah, I agree. So my mistake was not depleting enough of Batman's actions.
So do you remember, actually, I think it was your second last round, I think, where you were going, should I shoot Batman or should I shoot Batgirl? You ended up splitting your fire, which A, is never a good idea.
Yeah.
Pick a target, shoot it till it's dead.
Yeah.
That's the rule I learned in competitive Warhammer.
Mm-hmm.
And second of all, the whole time, obviously, I was going... Oh, I don't know what I want you to do. I was thinking, for fuck's sake, I don't want you to shoot Batman. Why are you even contemplating shooting Batwoman?
Because she was really close to
but she also had like 2 things here, whereas Batman had like 6, right?
Yeah.
And also Batman, weirdly enough, despite being here, was going to have a much easier time getting there, because she had to jump. She had to jump past 3 or 4 dudes. When there were 2 guys there was the same number of actions for both of them to get there, and he had more stuff that he could do, and he's better at doing it.
Yeah, so it does create these sort of considerations, doesn't it?
It does,
there is a payoff, yeah.
Yeah, no, there is some light resource management, there is some light tactical strategic thinking, but it is, I'd say, 80% dice chucky.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
and
definitely.
And I can get the joy that brings elsewhere for a much cheaper price.
But would you get it with
enormously
Batman?
lower overhead? Well, as you know, I don't really care for Batman as a theme. So,
but a lot of people do.
I think I probably prefer Conan.
A lot of people care for Batman.
A lot of people care for Batman.
Yeah, but Conan's scenarios suck.
Yeah, but here's the thing: even if you're an enormous, I often, even when I poo-poo a game, I'll often say, but if you're a fan of X, Y, and Z, or at least 2 of them, or maybe even just one of them, this is still will be a good game for you and will bring you joy. I'm not saying this won't bring you joy. I don't think being a Batman fan, even a big Batman fan, is enough of a justification to get this.
I think... I don't know, because there's a lot of minis in here, and they're quite good.
Minis are good.
The minis are good. I think a lot of people would really like the dynamic sort of poses and the cool... stuff.
Batman's pose is actually pretty cool.
If you were into like sort of painting and minis and things, which I'm not really super into, but I can appreciate that that's a thing, and I think people would really like that.
Batman's got a great pose. I like Batman a lot.
I even like Joker's kind of sassy sort of gun in
cool.
sort of like to one side pose.
The backhanded knife kind of is like, ooh, I got a knife too.
Yeah. Got a good old...
He's leaning back a little bit unrealistically.
Yeah, but he's kind of...
It's kind of like the hips a bit too.
Kind of like Slender-Man-ish, isn't it? It's a bit kind of like...
Yeah. From the front, it looks pretty cool. I never noticed from the side, it looks a little weird. But yeah, the models are good. The components, full stop, are good. I personally don't like the aesthetic of the white tiles, but the cards are good. The player boards are absolutely brilliant. The board looks nice, even if I don't think its visual information is good enough.
Yeah, I was worried that it would actually sort of be underwhelming once all the models were present on it, but it was fine.
No, it was fine. It was fun. It was cool. Mm-hmm. And I ultimately enjoyed this play session, but what you didn't see was our incredibly laborious and not very fun practice session to get to this stage.
You've got to have someone who's really keen to play this who'll unpick it first and then just come and sort of bring all the knowledge to the table. Yeah. You know, play either the villain or take on the role of the heroes and just sort of curate it a bit.
But to be honest, I think actually the whole table needs to be pretty familiar with it. Because imagine if you were really familiar with it and I spent the whole game going, and what's this again? And what's this? What does this one do? And you would have to watch, am I taking my rerolls? Am I taking my this, my that?
Yeah. Well, having these play rates is enormously helpful, goes a long way.
Yeah. And as easy in one way as this is to fix, it's that just highlights how terrible it is that they didn't do themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't think of a better Batman board game. It's I haven't played the Night Models Batman miniatures game. It's dreaded.
I'm teasing.
So I can't really make a comment, but maybe we will play that and we can let you know which Batman game is better.
Maybe one of our team is currently researching the rules of that game. Maybe.
Yeah, it's only been 4 months, so
he's a slow reader, okay?
He's not a slow reader. That's not his problem. He's just distracted by Guild Wars 2 constantly. But anyway, we're not naming names. So,
it's one of a few people only, but yeah.
Yeah, the team's not large.
You made a pretty fair point, which is that despite how heavy the overhead is, and how terrible it has been implemented, by our second play we already were significantly better. So I wouldn't hesitate to say, therefore, if you like Batman and like Dice Chucky skirmish games enough that this appeals to you, then the only kind of caveat I'd add would be just be aware there is an enormous overhead. It is not very accessible, and you just need to be willing to put that bit of work in.
Yeah,
and absolutely. If you're willing to put that in to get the Batman Dice Chucky skirmish game that you want to play, then this will 100% fulfill your desires.
Yep, absolutely. And I was going to say,
so if you find
with
a
strong caveat,
of the video, you've got a positive from me.
Yeah.
If you made it to the end of the video. You can put a subtitle up in the start saying, Chris says some nice things later.
That should be the title of this episode. I don't do titles in the finales, but if I did, it would be like, eventually Chris says a positive thing.
I did say, I had one or two smatterings throughout.
Spoilers. No, but I was going to say that the one caveat I would mention, so I'm going to say something negative now just to balance things out.
You've been quite negative as well, I think. We have just played this one scenario. I picked it because I thought it looked decent. It was a good pick, actually.
I think that if you were to play a scenario, there's quite a lot of scenarios. There's, I think, about 20 in this book. There's 4 boards, 20 scenarios, so that's a pretty good count. Oh, there's 24. I don't know what Batmobile is because we don't have one.
There's a Batmobile?
There is a Batmobile expansion. Oh yeah, look, there's a Batmobile token there. I don't have that. I don't know. Anyway, the point was that there are a lot of scenarios. My understanding is the ones that don't have objectives, that are pure just combat fights, are not great because they're very swingy in the game. Honestly, I think you need the objectives.
You do. The reason the combat was reasonably engaging was because we were doing it as a means to an end.
Yeah, it wasn't the purpose. I think,
it gave us the decision of, do I shoot, do I run, do I fight?
Exactly right. So I think if you're going to pick a scenario to play, pick one with objectives, with clearly defined objectives. Yeah. I think they will be the better scenarios.
Yes. But yeah. But I had fun playing it.
The problem is, I would play it again with my brother, but probably not with, maybe with Ollie. I think Ollie would probably get a kick out of this. But Michael would hate it. Too much dice.
Too much dice, and Michael would hate the overhead as well.
Yeah.
And Michael would not forgive the overhead as quickly as we did.
He just forgets stuff all the time.
We all did.
We all did, yeah. The problem is you can't buy it at the moment. The pledge manager's closed, and there's no late pledges, and I don't know how you could get a copy.
They'll probably
sap the second-hand market.
Their second. There's a good chance to do a third.
I would be very surprised because their last 2 Kickstarters for this were very successful. So I wouldn't be surprised if it comes back to Kickstarter.
Yeah, I mean, it rarely makes business sense to not give your customers what they want. Thank you for playing with me. It was fun.
Good.
It was
I'm glad
experience, despite the fact that I wasn't very positive about the game.
Yeah, it's that's the funny thing. In spite of all of our complaints, I actually really enjoyed playing the game, even though it was just very dicey. But I actually had fun.
I like dice. I do. So thanks for joining us, guys.
We'll be back tomorrow for a completely different adventure.
I'm Batman.
And I'm the Joker. I'm Bat Cow.